All right, let's put it out there. AI is no longer the intern. It's applying for your job, asking for a desk, and bringing its own coffee. And depending on who you ask, that's either genius efficiency or a Black Mirror episode waiting to happen. We've seen CEOs go from experimenting with AI to prove a human can do it better before you even think about hiring. It's the kind of moment where we pause and go, wait, are we building a future with more time to think, or are we quietly coding ourselves out of relevance? Today's episode, it's for the leaders, the builders, the doers, and the people wondering what it all means when that mandate becomes augment or replace. We're looking at both sides, the empowering ones, the uncomfortable ones, and the moments where we ask, how do we make sure humans don't get lost in this upgrade? Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Looking Forward, the podcast where we explore the future through technology, business, and society. I'm Jen.
I'm Alejandro. Today we're tackling a provocative question. To augment or to replace? That is the AI question.
Can it be both? Maybe it can be both.
Yeah, could be both.
Okay, we'll unpack both sides of it and share some real examples from marquee companies whose CEOs have issued bold AI mandates, driving either workforce augmentation or outright replacement. There's a lot of headlines going around right now from big companies making bold statements when it comes to augmenting or replacing with AI technology. So lots to unpack.
Yeah, this is going to be great. By the end of it, our goal is you'll be able to understand how organizations can strike a balance, right, between augmentation and replacement.
Let's start with some high-profile pronouncements. In January at Microsoft Ignite, CEO Satya Nadella declared that Copilot is the UI for AI. Every employee will have a Copilot that knows them and knows how they work. Essentially, he's turning Copilot into a mandate, equipping every team member with AI superpowers.
And then Salesforce, right? Mark Benioff went even further than that. He said, I will be the last CEO of Salesforce who only manages humans. From this point forward, we will be managing not only human workers, but also digital workers. That's a CEO openly reshaping his entire workforce structure around AI.
And now this one is quite a gauntlet being thrown by Shopify's Toby Lutke. In a now public internal memo, he's made it crystal clear that no new hires will be approved unless teams first prove that AI can't do the job. So this isn't just dipping a toe into AI, it's elevating it to the default candidate in every hiring conversation.
This represents a dramatic shift. Historically, businesses saw AI as more of an assistant, right? A helpful secondary option. Shopify is firmly placing AI at the center of every hiring decision. This is fundamentally rewriting the rules of HR departments everywhere.
Yeah, it's reframing the entire discussion. It's no longer about how can AI help our employees be more productive, but it's more about, do we even need a human for this role at all? What are your gut reactions to this policy? Do you think it's visionary leadership, or do you think this is veering into some dystopian territory?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a hiring policy. Plot twist.
That's true.
And Shopify is a company that a lot of people look up to in terms of a modern, fast-growing, great culture type of place. They've been very innovative in the way that they've transformed their development cycles and developer programs and platforms. So the fact that they're being so prescriptive in this should be a very loud signal to the marketplace. This is not the canary in the coal mine. This is one of the big birds in the coal mine already making the noise. So you better pay attention.
Even more interestingly, further on in this memo, he says, and I quote, "I don't think it's feasible to opt out of learning the skills of applying AI in your craft. You're welcome to try, but I want to be honest. I cannot see this working out today and definitely not tomorrow. Stagnation is almost certain, and stagnation is slow motion failure." So he's all in and really not giving anyone any option but to be as well if they want to be a part of what he's building.
Yeah, what he's saying is the old adage of saying you're not going to get replaced by AI, you're going to get replaced by someone who's using AI.
That's it. Yep.
So he's saying it's not an option whether or not you should use AI. You either use AI or you're out.
Right. Or you remain or become stagnant, which means you're out. Yeah. It's one thing to mandate the tool use of it, but it's another to frame non-adoption as essentially career suicide. It's like a level of urgency that I think is forcing a lot of organizations to ask, am I okay with similar stagnation on my own team? Is this something maybe as a leader that I should be thinking more strategically or more urgently about? Am I not doing enough to go in that direction? It's really hard to know.
Yeah, I mean, other things that need to be considered in terms of building or growing a culture is success. Success drives success. If other organizations are adopting AI more aggressively and they're becoming more efficient, beating you out in the marketplace by outpricing you or being able to out-deliver, provide better customer satisfaction, then the folks working on those teams are now even more motivated because they're seeing success around them. So they double down on adopting and leveraging AI to do their work better. So it's like a snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
The right culture and attitude. If the team is confused, afraid, disconnected, or not engaged, then any innovation, forget about AI specifically, is going to be more of an obstacle or driver for them. The team needs to have the right mindset of being flexible, growing in confidence, or the team is going to struggle.
Yeah. And also needs to be empowered to learn and to use it, which I think is one thing that Shopify is doing a good job of. This is a really extreme mandate, but he's also urging everyone to learn and use AI. So he's still giving people the opportunity to get on board with his vision versus maybe some of the more extreme examples of full-on replacement that we're going to discuss next. So let's explore some even more extreme cases where organizations are harnessing AI to automate entire job functions.
There's one case in terms of JP Morgan Chase's Coin platform, which is a machine learning system that parses legal contracts in seconds. They were able to slash 360,000 human hours, in which is an enormous reduction cost. I mean, think about it. These are legal hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average rate you're paying for those legal hours, it's a ton of money, but also it's a ton of human hours that these legal folks were spending. And that's now being replaced by this machine learning solution, Coin. It's not an augmentation, it's a direct replacement. This is a lot more straightforward in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. And yet these platforms are still requiring ongoing investment. So while they're saving in those hours, there's also a lot of data scientists, model retraining, cybersecurity safeguards, and infrastructure that goes into operating these models. A McKinsey report, for example, estimates that enterprises spend 20 to 30% of AI budgets just on model upkeep and governance alone.
Okay. We know that replacement is one of the biggest concerns people express about AI adoption, right? It's job security. According to a recent survey, 28% of employees actively fear being replaced by AI, while 33% feel AI discriminates their own creativity and the value of their role. Even more concerning, nearly 1/3, 31% of workers admit they've intentionally undermined their company's AI initiatives, either due to distrust, insecurity, or resentment towards technology itself. This is exactly what we were talking about. Now it's backed up with data. It's not just us like, oh, I think that if people are not embracing AI, then they're not going. No. They're sabotaging innovation.
Literally.
31 are literally sabotaging the implementation of AI. What are your thoughts on that?
Among younger employees, specifically millennials and Gen Z, the resistance jumps higher to 41%, having admitted to some form of AI sabotage. So they're not just minor issues either. It's employees deliberately withholding critical security info, entering sensitive company data into unauthorized AI tools, and even feeding poor quality inputs into the systems to make them seem less effective.
The people, they're fighting back.
They're scared
They're scared of
and
replacement.
defensive.
Well, this is 31%. So it's not everyone. It's a third. I'd be interested to know whether these are the top performers in these companies that are not embracing the new technology and are sabotaging innovation. Maybe it's the ones who are like, oh my God, this person who is 5 times more effective than I am is now using AI to be 50 times more effective than I am. And if I use AI, I'll be 30 times more effective than I am now, but still not as effective as that person. So I'm just going to sabotage the whole thing.
That's fair to think that at least some people are probably thinking that way. I would think even more so, it's people who are just afraid of being left behind. Do you know what I mean? And not even in terms of adapting the technology, but just in there being fewer options, it seems, if so much more can be done by a machine versus what humans used to create on their own. So it just it does feel a little limiting. And I don't know, I think it's making a lot of people question if what they're doing is relevant, if it's important enough to survive this shift that's happening. It's a deeper feeling of meaning if it's so easy to be augmented by a machine, then what was the point of my work in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, we can always zoom out and look at it from a larger point of view. And I think about it, I'm like, okay, it's also about like your personal philosophy, right? If you're like an optimist, you're gonna say, oh, I'm not thinking about the workforce shrinking. I'm thinking about the workforce shifting.
Sure.
And therefore, they're going to be early adopters of the shift and late adopters of the shift. And unfortunately, there might be some folks who are just not going to be part of the shift, won't be able to make it in terms of shifting their skills and their processes to incorporate AI, hopefully up level their contribution to the organization, right?
Yeah.
Being able to leverage the new technology to get more leverage on their time and effort so that they can be as impactful or even more impactful by spending less time and energy into it. That would be a positive. And that's assuming that people have something they want to do with their time that is positive beyond work. Some people might be like, yeah, I just want to work more power to you. But yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it. In terms of replacement, you're going to be replacing some old jobs, really, but it becomes like now that these tasks.
So it was a job for someone.
Yeah, and now this person can move on to, it's just like, people move from the farm to the factory, from the factory to the office, and now from the office to the whatever it is, right? Maybe it's up here.
Yeah, I think there's definitely new technical positions that are emerging and new skill sets that are going to be required for future generations or even today. New types of education will be mandated to fill these roles. Some more higher payroll costs because a lot of these technical roles come with a higher cost to keep those people employed. Things become complex when we look at it from the perspective of reductions in headcount as AI comes in to replace certain roles, but there are also a lot of companies, I think, already starting to realize the gains that can come at the cost of like increased investments for highly skilled, specialized AI talent on the other end.
Should we move on? I think there's another section here where we want to discuss real world augmentation wins.
Okay, so on the flip side, if we're looking at some real world augmentation wins, we can look at the Bank of Queensland, who's rolled out Microsoft 365 Copilot across its workforce, and 70% of users have reported saving 2.5 to 5 hours per week on tasks like drafting manuals or training materials. And the risk analysis team cut a week-long process down to just one day, freeing up analysts to focus on strategic decision-making.
Yeah, and it's not just the business folks. 2.5 to 5 hours a week is a huge gain. You think about all that you can accomplish in 2.5 to 5 hours.
You're getting so much closer to the 4-day work week.
So, but even developers too are reaping the benefits. And, it's not surprising. There's an example from Bank of Colombia where they adopted GitHub Copilot and saw a 30% boost in code generation with an average of 18,000 automated application changes per year and 42 productive deployments every day. Rather than replacing engineers, AI accelerates their work. And it's letting them tackle more complex features and ensure higher code quality. So yes, the volume is going up in terms of their production. The quality and the strategicness of their personal individual input is also rising.
That's interesting when we're talking about the more complex features and being able to tackle more things. I wonder, and I'm sure this is being measured, how much job fulfillment people are experiencing through opportunities like this. A lot of what drags people down in their roles or makes them feel less motivated or inspired is those really mundane tasks. That's where AI can come in. I wonder if, as we're looking at people being more strategic or having that opportunity in their positions to feel more fulfillment from their roles and what they're contributing at the end of the day.
So, Jen,
Yes.
these examples show that AI can be a real force multiplier. How do you see augmentation reshaping career paths and shifting team dynamics?
I think career path wise, there'll be a shift in the hierarchy that exists in a lot of more traditional or old school organizations. Rewards and promotion come from years of service versus really applying yourself in your role or being able to take on bigger, harder tasks. I think that will happen a lot sooner in people's careers. There'll be a lot more shifting around within organizations based on what people are passionate about or really good at and what they can achieve with the help of AI to support them in their roles. I think that's kind of cool and exciting to think about. From the team dynamics perspective, I see it being more of a shift in the opposite direction from a teamwork or a collaborative approach to doing things. I think a lot of people will be able to be individual contributors with an AI assistant versus some projects or ways of working previously that involved a lot of various opinions and points of view. In my role, there's a lot of things where I would want to run it by someone else on the team for review, but now I can run it through ChatGPT for review. So I question how the dynamics will shift that way and how much work will be done collaboratively in a future environment.
Interesting.
What do you think?
I actually disagree, respectfully.
Okay.
I think that when new technology comes out, we tend to use it on a one-to-one basis first, and then we learn how to use it together. So when the first computers came out, you were getting the machine time, just you and the machine with the paper things. Very intimate communication process between the human. You literally had to take pieces of cardboard and put holes in it and then feed it to the machine. It's like very visceral, like physical, one-to-one thing. And then we got better at building devices to interact with the machine. And we could interact with the machine and then networks, and then we were able to interact with the machine together. In the future, let's do a thought exercise. Let's say you and I are working on the same thing, in which we are in many cases working on similar things. You and I are engaging with an LLM separately, right? It's not as efficient. You might solve something that I'm going to solve, and then we're going to do it twice. So it's a waste. So I start to think, no, we should be in the same room, and this LLM should be in the same room with both of us, having a conversation. Then I extrapolate from there, and I think that ultimately it's like humans and LLMs, and you only need one of the LLM for all the humans working together on something. That we can all communicate at the same time, separately, however you want, but we're still all communicating the same way. We kind of have that in our enterprise OpenAI account. I don't think we do it as well in the other accounts, but definitely in the OpenAI one, where we have like a collective knowledge base. What I do think could happen is that if a person is more of an introverted type and doesn't want to make decisions about real-time engagement or interaction with other humans, then that person can deploy some sort of AI LLM representation of themselves, our AI agent, to do that part, because that's the part they don't want to do. In that case, that person is able to be more isolated, but also more social, if you think about it. I think we have a natural tendency to want to be together and share this life experience as humans. And I think no matter where the technology goes, that's going to remain true. We'll find a way to give, just like those very brave rebels, that 31% who's saying, you will not implement AI while I'm here. What are we talking about?
We're talking about how augmentation will reshape career paths and team dynamics.
Yeah. I think augmentation will accelerate career paths, not just in the traditional accelerate, like, oh, people are going to be able to get promotions faster. I think also people will be able to make decisions about their careers faster.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because like a lot of times we're like, oh, there's a gap in information when you're trying to switch from one career to another or from one job to another. And LLMs are enabling you to really shrink that time frame of like, I don't know what this is to, well, I can ask whatever, I pretty quickly figure out what anything is. You can get a better sense of the knowledge that you need and the skills that you need to do the job that you are doing and decide whether or not it's right for you, as opposed to having to explore for longer time and figuring it out.
I think there is a valid concern about those who are just starting out in their careers and what it means for them. A lot of what AI can currently do is that more entry-level work in a lot of traditional organizations. And so there's a lot of fear around how people will start out in their careers in those early days where it's about learning as you go or shadowing others. A lot of entry-level positions are being eliminated as a result of AI implementation. So that's a fear for sure. But I think the rest of the education system will help offset that in how it's changing education and learning for youth anyway. It'll be interesting to see the impacts that has.
Augmentation wins are all about where humans and machines each play their strengths. That's the path to a sustainable future-proof growth.
I think we spoke to this already, but AI won't replace humans. Humans with AI will replace humans without AI. It's about ensuring that employees adopt AI tools to deliver even better outcomes versus none at all.
A wise model once said, you do not have to be an AI expert to be an expert with AI. Balancing the human AI workforce. Let's bring it all together.
All right. So I think to augment or replace really is the AI question. The most visionary companies will be those who can both amplify human ingenuity while still using AI and thoughtfully managing the shift it brings.
Thanks for joining us on today's exploration. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your thoughts. How is your organization navigating its AI mandate? Also, go to alejandrojagerman.com to check out my new weekly newsletter, email newsletter going out every Monday morning. No fluff, no gimmicks, no hacks, just honest opinions on what's going on in technology and leadership today. Sign up, be one of the first few readers. If you reply, guess what? I'm going to get your reply and we can start a conversation. How's that sound?
Love it. And until next time,
Keep looking
forward.